Hello, and welcome to another episode of Third Chances. My today guest is Susan. She is coaching Christian women leaders. She believes that leaders help others thrive. God has been central in Susan's life, helping her get through all the trials. After launching her coaching business, her life has been filled with special opportunities to help, especially women, excel in confidence and collaborations. When she's not focusing on business-related activities, you can find Susan enjoying many outdoor activities or creatively enjoying painting or creating cards with colored pencils. And I didn't say your last name because I realized, to me, I would pronounce it Husa. But I'm sure in America you pronounce it differently. I don't know if you know, but your last name is actually Czech word that means goose.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. I thought that was hilarious.
So how do you pronounce it here? Husa?
Husa,
Husa. Okay, so
like
Susan
bugle,
Husa.
Husa. hmm
And
Yeah,
where are you calling from, Susan, today?
I'm just outside of Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, Washington. Look at that.
hmm
So Florida and Washington.
Right? The two opposite diagonal ends.
Yeah, that's the joy of the technology today. We can complain about it, or we can appreciate how it connects people that never met before. And I was
Mhm.
fortunate to be introduced to you, and we spent quite some time talking and realizing what we have in common. And it's been very joyful. And I have to say, our first call, I was almost embarrassed because I couldn't stop talking about myself, which is never my intention.
I remember that you mentioned that. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
all good.
that was not how I wanted to make a first impression.
Yeah.
But there is something in you that invites people to open up. And I think that's the one of the best characteristic for excellent coach, because
Mm.
when you are helping people, they need to feel comfortable with you and open up and be trusting. So that's a
Absolutely.
very good value for you to have. So
Oh,
Susan,
thank you, Vera.
thank you so much for making time for this podcast. I love feature people like you, and I'm always hoping that somebody listens to this and it may just click there and they may just realize that you may be the person that they need to approach.
Well,
Your
I
company
appreciate you
is,
having me on your podcast. Thank you.
thank you, sorry. Your company is called Animate Life Coaching, and we will talk about it later, but I will first like to learn about Susan, the person. And so I would like to go back a little bit, a few years back, not that long, about, when you were little and what was your life like, and what were your dreams and aspirations? What were you hoping to become when you grow up? And how the life shaped you?
Oh, thank you. Well, what comes to mind is I wanted to be a homemaker. And part of that, I believe, stems from being in a home that had a mother and
Mm-hmm.
then seeing my mom go to work after my parents' divorce and how chaotic it felt. There was a lot of organization in the home at one point, and then it seemed like there was just chaos. And so because of that experience, it was really important for me to I don't know, God put it on my heart to be a stay-at-home mom, and I met a man that thought that would be a good idea too. So it worked out good.
So you were looking for that form of family, that it's the structure, the base, the quality there. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great way to put it. A well-managed home.
Yeah. So did you manage to do that?
I did. I got to live that dream. And it wasn't until our daughter was, we have a son who's 28 and our daughter's 26, well, soon to be in June and August. But it was when our daughter was, I believe, a junior in high school that I started working outside the home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did
So
you did you go to school? Any particular interest, hobbies when you were little?
Yeah, so after college, I ended up staying in the farming community that I lived in. And I was with a farmer boyfriend thinking that I was going to have this life with him until I
Mm-hmm.
had the epiphany that that wasn't what it was going to be about. I
Hmm.
realized I wouldn't be able to go boating like I wanted to up in the San Juan Islands and do a lot of these activities like camping. And I just thought to myself, those things are so important to me. And I wasn't in a great relationship anyway. So I ended that relationship and then found a way to move over to Seattle. And I went to modeling school. I had an amazing experience going through that and working and putting myself through that. And then that just escalated into other opportunities for me.
I didn't catch it. Sorry, what school?
Modeling school.
Modeling school. What
Mhm.
does that mean?
So to be a model, and then there was also commercial acting involved in that. So
I
it
didn't know that existed.
oh yeah,
Wow.
yep.
So did you do it for a little bit or not at all?
Oh, I ended up not modeling. I decided that that was not the focus that I wanted to, and even the industry that I wanted to be in. But here's actually an interesting thought. So a lot of people said, "Oh, you're tall and you're thin and you should be a model." And my sister was working at this modeling agency, and so I thought, "Well, I'm going to go. I'll go to modeling school and pursue modeling." And that experience showed me that I didn't want that either. And I was listening to what other people said I should do, which is fine, right? People might
Yeah.
see things that you don't about yourself. So but I loved that I went through that experience, and it's helped me even today being on camera. I had an on
Yeah.
camera experience.
I'm sure every experience we make in life has some reason for shaping us to what we need later on in life.
Isn't
That's,
that wild? I mean, I could ask you questions similar, but I want to respect how you'd like this podcast conversation to go.
no, 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 please feel free. This is a conversation. Of course, I want to feature you and learn as much about you and your life because this is an episode about you, Susan. But
Hmm.
of course, I'm open to anything if you want to jump in and follow up. And I usually, when you say something, it clicks in my head and comes up with, something else.
Hmm.
And I actually wanted to ask you because you are very, very upfront with loving God, and
Hmm.
your whole business is around that. Uh,
Hmm.
what made you what made you like did you grow up with in a as in a strong believing family, or did you find God later in life? Can you tell me a little bit about that journey?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up Catholic. And then I met my husband, and he was Methodist. My stepmom's Lutheran, so I would go to Lutheran church sometimes, Catholic church sometimes. And then, like I said, when my husband and I met, we were going to the Methodist church.
Mm-hmm.
And then we decided that we wanted to do something different. We really wanted to find that community that we enjoyed being with, and not, I don't know, it's interesting. You can go to church, different churches, and there's a different vibe, if you will.
Yeah,
And
for
so we
sure.
ended up going to this other church, which was non-denominational, and that was a better fit for us. With the people that were attending seemed to be I don't know, for me it was just I'm going to use the word vibe. It was a different vibe that
Yeah.
I liked, and so did our children and my husband. So yeah, Jesus has been a part of my life forever. I remember writing cards to my parents thanking them for giving me the best gift ever, which is Jesus, because uh, those years where I felt like, within myself I was struggling, I would always talk to God, right? And I'm so thankful for that. And then it wasn't until I was probably about 14 that I had that first encounter where I felt like I was really in that relationship with God. And so when, moving forward into my business time, uh I I grappled with this whole idea of, you know, do I say I'm a Christian woman and say I'm a Christian coach? Because it's not like I'm bringing a lot of, biblical, like scripture into my coaching.
Yeah.
It's more about the women that I coach,
But it's
sometimes men
about who
too.
you are, I think. It's very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should. And because you attract people that have the same values as you
Mhm.
are. And it would
Right.
be, I can imagine it would be very hard to start working with someone who is on the opposite spectrum of, making mockery of religion or anything like that. It's impossible. You cannot respectfully, benefit each other in that
Oh,
space. That would be really crazy. So I applaud you that you are, because I think that makes you authentic, that makes you
mhm,
upfront, very honest about who you are, what you believe in, and
mhm,
it will attract the same similar type of people to you, because
mhm,
there's tons of coaches out there, and I believe that there is a reason why there are different coaches specializing in different things, and
mhm.
the people need to feel attraction to you and trust and resonate on deeper level if they want to achieve the results that they are seeking the coach for. And
Right.
that's a very big part of who you are. Absolutely. Yeah.
It is. I'm curious, just real quick. So for you, what was that like for you? Do you advertise that you're a Christian coach or a
I
Christian
am
woman?
not Christian coach. I'm not. I'm in more health space than I when we spoke, I always believed, and I always was going to church when I was little. I actually play organ in the church and sing.
Mhm,
But later in my life, I practiced going to church. We didn't belong to any congregation. We were moving from place to place as well. And
right.
so for years, I haven't been part of community. And, it clicked something when you said that you were looking for that vibe, because many people get turned from religion because they believe that people, a priest or the place or the church makes the religion. It's not. It's your relationship with God. Either you
Mhm.
and you don't have to necessarily go to place to have that relationship.
I believe
So
that too.
yeah, I was to be honest, I haven't been, and uh and I'm myself kind of questioning if, because I was born and raised Roman Catholic as well,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
I was questioning if that's the right vibe for me, because I have been exposed to different religions and met people that were doing Bible studies both
mhm,
in Connecticut and here in Florida,
mhm.
and it seemed a little more liberating. It feels, I don't know why, in this stage of my life,
Mhm.
that the Roman Catholic way to do mass, and I love the music and everything, but it's very structured,
Mhm.
and it almost feels like there's no space for discussion. It's you listening to sermon, and that's the way it is. While when I was in different churches, it felt more as a community of people that believe in the same thing and are it could be just the type of church that I went to, but that
Right.
was my experience. And so I'm,
Mhm.
to be honest, I'm still searching for it. And it's
Mm.
actually just recently found something somebody was discussing on Facebook that has an excellent community of all kinds of immigrants, and I'm immigrant myself, and I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, maybe I should go and check it out, because I do love to find some new community of friends and people that are meaningful. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's important. It's important to have a group of people that you can rely on, with conversation around your belief system,
Yeah.
and I love Bible studies for that reason.
Hmm.
I like to go to, there's a Bible study fellowship. I used to also, I did a lot of Bible study with precepts. I love precepts. It's a more in-depth study of the word, and it really gets into the context, whereas BSF really lays it out for you. And precepts is more about you going and researching for yourself and really having that experience, that internal experience with what God is revealing to you. Because we're all in different developmental stages in life, right? And so God's going to meet us where we are. And when I say that, I think about us meeting people where they are in life. And it makes me think about, okay, this church I didn't quite vibe with. And it's not that I didn't like the people. I would say that there was, I want to say that it seemed conservative. And and so then, yeah, that's interesting because I'm far from being conservative. Well, I am in some ways, and then I'm not. I have a very outgoing personality, if you will.
Yeah.
And I've learned to tone it down over the years, just because I can be very animated. Animate life coaching, right?
Yeah.
Grateful for life. And
what's wrong with that, though?
yeah, well, over the years, it was always suppressed, oh, quiet down, being too
Yeah.
noisy. You're so frank, so God refines us, right? And I think that's what was happening in my life is, even though people were saying, hey, quiet down, or and I was very fidgety. I couldn't be quiet in the classroom.
How about in church?
Yeah, in church I had a hard time sitting still too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
funny.
anyways, it's getting back to the point of, God is refining us. We're his people, right? We're his children, and he is the one that is really just putting it on our hearts to hear what he has to say about us. And the vibe with the people in that church, it's like, yeah, I could embrace everyone there just fine.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't quite the right vibe. And I'd have to really put my finger on that we all like to be with different types, I guess.
Yeah, and for me, I have been moving all over this beautiful planet. I've been moving quite a bit from Europe, different states, and then to America, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of frees you up from rules and borders, and it feels like I want to explore. I want to explore more, and like I said before, it felt that the Roman Catholic was a little too structured for me lately, even though that's the only thing I knew when I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And funny, it's just when you were saying about the vibe, it just reminded me of that could be the source of the problem there, because when I was little, my grandma would be in church every single day. Every single day, every morning she was in church, no matter how she felt, no matter if there was 2 feet of snow, she was there. And
Wow.
of course, I was in the school, and I couldn't do that. But also under communism, it wasn't very welcome to be openly religious. You were
Mm-hmm.
not suggested, like you were not recommended to go to church, because why would you think that your rights came from God and not from government, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember we had a priest in our small village that was one priest for 50 years. And he was a very scary person, like very respectful, very, very dominant, I would say. And I remember one day, because I was like 6, 7, and I was playing piano. I was learning to play piano since I was 5. And twice a week, I had to take a bus and go to the city nearby to take my lessons. And it happened to be the day when there was a Bible study at the school, which was volunteer, that was not required. It was kind of watched who is going to that lesson, because then it was assumed that the family is religious and we may have to keep an eye on them, because the secret police was taking care of that. And so I remember one day I was, I met him on a sidewalk, and he was this big figure. So he was really very, like, almost scary, like
Yeah,
person.
intimidating comes to
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
he was like, "Whoa, how come you not coming?" Because everybody knew everybody. He knew who I was, who my grandma is, my parents are. How come you not coming to the náboženství, which was the Czech word for the education of, the religion, the Bible study. And I was like almost shaking in my boots, and I just said something about, well, I have to go to my piano lessons on that day, so I can't. Da, da, da. And
Aw.
he's like, well, when you go to hell, you can play on piano.
Oh,
And
goodness.
so it was really that, that's like the scary man in the sky. It was kind of like, it didn't feel well for me, of course. I was a little kid, and it didn't feel right. But then later on, in few years later, I was playing in that church for
Wow.
his mass, and he didn't repeat it then. I wonder if you
Wow.
remember. But
Wow.
it's kind of, maybe these little experiences stays with you for a long time, even though later on, when I was in Prague, I became a friend with a priest outside of Prague in a small town. And
Mm-hmm.
because I was a solo singer at the state ensemble at that time,
Mm-hmm.
our co-repetitor asked me if I would sing at church. And I said, oh, absolutely. And he was playing in this church in that, outside of Prague. And so I started coming with him, and that was the opposite of that my village priest.
Right.
He was the epiphany to me of priest. He
Yeah.
had his heart right on his palm of his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful person. We became really close friends. We would come to visit him and just have a coffee and talk about everything. And
Wow.
so that was kind of repair for for me. But
Mm-hmm.
it could be the cause or root cause of my kind of finding myself in the religion world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Having those experiences, you had a good one and you had one that wasn't so great.
Yeah,
And
but it's very
so,
different. Yeah.
what do you know now about your relationship with God?
Oh, well, we turned it around. Now I'm being interviewed. uh, well, it's to be perfectly honest, I sometimes take it for granted, thinking
Mm-hmm.
he's always there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I know I need to do more to deserve that love or be the person I wanted to be. And just trying, just trying hard, having
So
conversation.
you try to earn God's love for you.
Yeah, I feel that I should. And that may be from the old teachings that possibly that I have been exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I was raised to be required to do certain things to be a good Christian. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I question if I am. So it's more like reflecting on me, if I'm living the truth that I want to preach, if I am really doing the things that can turn things around for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's all the experiences in life that shape us,
Mm-hmm.
and of course give
I
us
agree.
different perspective. And
Yes.
like you mentioned about the community, of course, when I'm here
Mm-hmm.
and my family or what is left of it is far away in
Mm-hmm.
Czech,
Yeah.
yeah, you need that community even more so because you don't
Mm-hmm.
you don't have it right here. But I was blessed with several wonderful friends that have been almost more than family to me, to be honest, and the characters of people that I haven't been exposed to when I grew up because that country was very different too.
Right. No, and I love some of the stories that you've shared with me. So, yeah,
Yeah.
and for you to say that you need to earn God's love is something that I just pray that you really get to the bottom of what that means for you. and your relationship with him. Do you have
Mm,
to earn his love? You know, that's the question for you to ponder.
maybe. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
But I would like to turn it back to you.
sure. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
No, the reason we started talking is because now you're coaching people, and how did that happen? Because you mentioned you were a homemaker, you were there for your children. I'm assuming you
Mhm.
were raising them, seeing them out of the door. And
Mhm.
so, how did you come around helping others, coaching, finding yourself in this business world?
Mm. Well, I had hired a coach at one point in time when I was starting a women's group. I had this whole vision come to me about how women should be, or how I wanted to have a group to meet other women in the community,
Hmm.
and then have professional speakers come in and talk to us about managing our homes and dealing with all sorts of things like relationships and navigating relationships in your own community, in your own home, and being able to just, all of the things that go into managing a home and being in a community.
Yeah.
And so I did that, but prior to that, I had some uncertainty going on, and I remember during that time I was also kind of searching for, like, what's this next thing for me?
Yeah.
And uh and so
And
I
when
kept,
kids grew up,
yeah, because our daughter was at that point she was in high school, and then our son was off to college. And I'm trying to remember the timing of all of it, but they were both in high school and off to college.
hmm,
Yeah, it's so funny because in this moment I can't remember exactly the
that's
timing
it.
of,
That's
was Adam off to college or not when I had the mom's group.
yeah.
And but anyway, that that coach, it was amazing how working with that coach helped me really define some things for myself that I just needed to come to terms with for me, not
Yeah.
have anyone tell me.
Right.
And it was so beautiful because God put it on my heart to have this, gave me this vision.
Hmm.
And I had had so much experience prior to doing a startup company. And then I also when I was in the professional, I worked for a group of trainers and consultants in management development. And so I was the sales and marketing director, and I was the one that opened up the doors for these guys to get in and do the work that they did.
Yeah.
Process improvement, you know, Brian Tracy's, high achieving professionals, all of, I guess, I'm trying to bring this back to a very concise
No, I'm
answer.
just thinking because you made it sound like you were a homemaker for all these years, but you have experience in business already when you
Oh yeah.
turned to this point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and I was with PTA working in a lot of different leadership positions because of my experience that I had in the business world. That was my dream when I was living in that farming community, was to go find out what the corporate world was all about.
Hmm.
So I did the modeling school, but then just one thing led to another, and I made my way into the corporate world, and it was a great experience. So uh where was I? I really got
You
off
were
track
talking
here.
about starting that group and that coach helping you to refine your ideas about
Yeah,
it.
so that was key. And so when it came for me to find something that was next, and I was going to go back and get my degree, I thought, I really don't want to get a degree at this point in my life. And so I started narrowing it down. And when life coach came, I knew I wanted to work with people, and I loved the whole personal development. I mean, pretty
Yeah.
much been in that all my life. Um, and then that struck me. I was like, that's it. And so then I sought out the best of coaching in the in the world, and CTI was it. And so I got certified, and then Positive Intelligence was offering these pods for people to come in and go through their coach training. And Shirzad was the founder of Positive Intelligence, and he used to be the CEO of CTI, which is Coactive Training Institute. So it's kind of cool how those two things came together, and I went through both certifications. I'm just going to say though, at Positive Intelligence, if I completed the last two pieces of their certification, it was going to pop me into their organization where I would pay them money and then I would bring people into their program. And I wanted to be independent. And so I thought, why complete the certification process? It didn't mean anything to me, and I didn't feel like it was going to validate any of my skills, other than, I don't know. I almost didn't want to be seen as certified. I don't know. It was really odd because
Depends. It's, there's a lot of people that don't seek certification, and I think
right.
they should. But it's you bring a whole lot of experience to the table when you work with someone, uh, from a business or the marketing. That's very important. And what I love about what you said, it's you met a good coach, because the good coach is not supposed to tell you what to do or what you think. Good coach is supposed to reflect to you and open your mind, expand your horizon to
Mhm.
kind of like clear up your own mind and focus on what matters, and help you reshape the ideas to the place that works for you, not for the coach. And
Yeah,
that's
that's why I even left you with that inquiry of, hey, I hope that you find what you're looking for with your relationship with God, and the inquiry of, do you have to earn God's love?
Yeah, that may be question that I'll be finding answer for the rest of my life. Who knows? And I don't think it's the absolutely, like, I don't think it's completely wrong question, because I think we should strive to be a good person. And there are certain criterias that we all have in our own head, what that means for any of us. And so it's basically more to kind of self-reflection of who I am, and do I live honestly the way I wish I do. It's that questioning. It's not that I'm thinking that somebody is there, you, and it's more to me, because as we grow older, I start to be reminded of something that I didn't understand when I was 20, when someone says, I know that I don't know anything. Because the
Yeah,
more you know, you start realizing how much there is left that you don't know about.
I know. Isn't it beautiful? It's so
It is.
lovely.
It
For
is.
me, my goal is to be Christ-like. That's the ultimate goal. And what's there? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, I that's it for me. I have it on these cards that I sent out at Christmas time. It's, um the fruit of the spirit shines through in all of his people that follow him: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And then the opposite of that is when we're doing things on our own, we tend to fall in this category with sexual immorality, impurity, lustful pleasures, idolatry, sorcery, hostility, quarreling, jealousy, outbursts of anger, selfish ambition, dissension, division, envy, drunkenness, wild parties. It's like, oh, all of those resonate with me.
Yeah.
I can attest to all of those in some form or another. And so it's so lovely because God says, I love you. And I just want to, I know you come from a sinful nature, and I forgive you, and here's how I'm going to help you love your neighbor as yourself. And that was a big thing for me. Love your neighbor as yourself. Really? How
Yeah.
so? That's really what it boils down to with some of the coaching the coaching that I do is really bringing people to the point of truth for where they're at developmentally,
Yeah.
right? Like you said, it's
And
we need.
it could be hardest thing when you think of it, because some people have so much judgment around them, and or anger in themselves that they
Mhm.
can't work out. And it's it could be hard to find it in you to love thy neighbor.
It's so amazing. This training that CTI has is so amazing. It I I thought I was the most confident when I went to coach training in my life. And it was so beautiful what God showed me going through that coach training
Mm-hmm.
because I unraveled from so much that you just mentioned. I didn't realize how much I was still holding on to that was keeping me so insecure. And I've had panic attacks. I've been hauled off in an ambulance because of panic attacks. I mean, I was in a horrific car accident, but I really am thankful in an odd way that, those struggles that we go through, if we really get to the heart of the matter, which is my slogan for my business, I didn't have to go on antidepressants. I didn't have to go on anti-anxiety. I wanted to get to the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that through massage and psychotherapy. The psychotherapy showed me that I was in a position where I didn't feel like I had any control,
Mhm.
and to know
Yeah.
like who is in control and to release that to God. And oh my God, it gets so deep, but it's so lovely. Or if you're
It
blaming
is
people,
huge. Yeah.
can turn blame right back to, okay, so what can you do about it? And it's so beautiful. And the forgiveness thing is huge. And it's so freeing. I mean, I really do. I feel so confident because I feel so free of anything. Like, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
and seriously, if I was in a war zone, it'd be disgusting and sickening, and I would not want to be subjected to that. And at the same time, the only place I can go within me is in my mind, my heart, and my soul is to have that relationship with him. It's the only safety I know.
Yeah. So many things go through my mind when you say that, because I know, and I know personally, a lot of people that perhaps their faith was never strong enough. I don't know, but
Mhm.
the moment something really horrific happens in their life, which unfortunately happens all the time, can happen to any of us,
Yeah.
they start questioning the whole purpose. They start questioning how, if God was this good, he wouldn't let it happen. And sometimes it's really hard to answer that because it's impossible, because
Mhm.
when you are in that place of anger, blaming, you are not open to listen anyway. But
Right.
it's really it's interesting because it gives you some kind of perspective when you think about these things. And I am also more understanding of people that sometimes say that it doesn't do anything to them because they believe of some assumptions that they have about religion or people that are religious, that
Mhm.
people that have faith. And that's the world we live in. I don't think we can change anybody's mind unless they want to change themselves and they
Mhm.
seek that growth. And it is not only spiritual, but also the personal growth, because that's probably what most goes back to what I said, that I feel like I need to deserve his love. Is
Mhm.
if I am not sure that I'm doing the best I could, that I wish I did. That would be the place where I'm
Yeah.
at, possibly. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Just yesterday I was talking about, well, one of my epiphanies was realizing that I'm only accountable to him. And
Mhm.
that's what comes to me when I think about what you're describing, right? Like when, you know, being raised Catholic, we are taught how to be, God gave us the law to give us ideas,
Yeah.
don't steal, don't kill your neighbor, Okay, those are some good laws to have.
Sometimes you
Right?
want to, but
And I love that the law is there because it gives me these guidelines, to
yeah.
say, yeah, okay, so those are things not to do. And then boom, that's why he gave the law, just to say, hey, this is how we can be um loving and kind to one another, follow these guidelines. Gosh, back in the day though, I think about, the rituals and everything that went on to you know be be accountable to God in that physical way.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, what does your ideal client look like?
Mhm.
Who we established that mostly you work with women, or that was in your bio, and that would make sense because we resonate usually with the people that are the closest to us and we can understand on deeper level. But how does it look like when somebody is considering that she may need a help with the coach? What kind of help can you offer her?
Mhm. So women who I say consider themselves as leaders because they have a notion that they're responsible for themselves and
Yes.
they want to help others thrive.
Mhm.
And they're in this state of quandary, if you will, about starting a business. They have an idea that they haven't quite uh, gotten a whole lot of clarity around, and they're struggling with self-doubt and some insecurities, and just and they're not feeling real clear about some things for themselves, or they and a big one is the communication piece of they don't feel like they're communicating well with their spouse or their
Mm.
children. And really that's that internal dialogue too that says, I just things aren't good and they don't feel right. And so
Yeah.
I really help them see what it is that matters to them, and then they learn those skills to be able to first internalize, what is that for themselves, and then if there's a conversation that needs to happen, I help them really learn how to have a better conversation so that both parties involved are feeling honored.
Mm. I think you touched on something very important, which is usually in the core of every issue that we deal with. It's the conversation we are having with ourselves.
We're taught to be, well, I'll use this term. They say we're the kick-ass coaches, and I was like, that's pretty. I mean, yeah,
There are some, yeah.
I mean, and what that means is, and I'm going to use my terminology, is a coach that's not afraid to ask the question of someone because it came to them. There was this
Yeah.
intuitive piece to say, gosh, what was that like for you? Or even to have the word come up and you say it for them to explore
Yeah.
and use the tools of coaching strictly to move that person through this whatever's going on within them so that they see it for themselves, because it's so beautiful as a coach. There's no judgment going on. You're moving through their story with them, so to speak, and you're driving that truth out so that they are fully, again, honoring what that is for them. And they may even discover that something, most of the time, it's something that they attached to when they were a kid that just robs them as an adult. And then they get that release, and it is so beautiful, and they are able to move forward and apply this new thought, this new revelation that they came up with within themselves,
That's right. Yep.
that, like you said, you used a term, and it's not that you ever want to avoid this and just go over here. You want to actually find what this is and hit it head on so that you can come together, and then you're basically moving this idea over to another place in your brain, that you are creating another pathway instead of that old way.
You
It's
reframing that old belief and use it to move on, because that you perfectly described why coaching is effective, because I have met some people earlier in my career when they believed, oh, what do I need coach for? I have a friend that I can talk with. And they don't realize that, you know, in talking with friend, that would be nice and everything, that we all need that. But that friend isn't a coach. That friend is gonna suggest their own opinion on them. That, you know, it's this is not what coaching is. It's helping you find your own answers, because none of us like to be told what to do, and we find immediately reasons why that wouldn't apply to you. Like I remember earlier years when I was taking some business courses, and people will constantly ask, so what should I charge? And I was laughing because I was like, nobody can tell you. You have to figure out what feels right to you, what value you bring to the table. If I tell you $5 or 500, it doesn't matter if you don't apply value to it. We have that thing in our head and those stories to compare ourselves with others, which one thing that God created was that there is a reason why we are all absolutely unique in this world, why we have unique fingerprints, unique DNA, unique everything. There's no one beautiful bird from the same species that has exactly same colors.
It's so hard to believe, isn't it?
It is so hard to believe,
Marvel at
because
that.
that's
Like,
really it
how
just
does that happen?
mind-boggling when you think of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Any species like zebras, they don't have the same markings. And it's impossible to imagine, like, you know, and that's actually some deeper conversations I used to have with some people that were disbelievers. And we were kind of like challenging each other's beliefs and disbeliefs. And I was telling them, listen, if this is true, and it's scientifically proven that it is true, how could that happen with the Big Bang? How? How you are born from a little egg and a sperm, and without you doing anything, the entire brilliant body is created with self-mechanism of healing, feeding, waste management. Everything is taken care of. The brain that you are using or not using. I mean, all of these things are absolutely, when you think of it, there's no explanation for it.
Oh my God. I have two. We were watching, I think there was three little birds in this nest. And so they're robins, and they nest, they grow for about 2 weeks, and then boom, they're gone out of the nest. And then for 3 weeks they hang out with the mom, and then they learn how to feed themselves and you know, learn to fly with the flock, and boom, that's their deal. And I was like, what? To see these little guys, you know, go from so in 2 weeks, what? There were these little bear things in there, and then all of a sudden there's these white little furry things, and then all of a sudden and to think that those cells are generating that quickly to produce this thing so quickly is so astounding.
It's a miracle of life.
Yeah.
It's anything you look at in the universe that we know, because there's so much we don't know. It's just absolutely fascinating. It's impossible that it just started by accident on its own. And that's the deeper questions when you are honest with yourself and you don't believe in anything, in any higher powers, however you may call it. Then tell me, how is this possible?
Yeah, and you know, the interesting thing for me is, you know, how people go to school to learn all sorts of things. And what stops you from reading about who Jesus is? You know, I'm like, oh my goodness, I every day I'm in the Bible in the morning reading his word, and it's I just marvel at it.
You know, we were conditioned to accept other people's opinions as our own and not questioning it. You know, many people grow up being told what to think and what to do, and they just take it and run with it, and they never really think about, is it my true, or is it my parents or grandparents that had completely different life than I live? And you know, it's going back to what we were talking about, what I grew up with. I was 19 when I realized that everything I was taught in school up to that point by teachers that I absolutely loved and admired was a lie.
Aw.
It was propaganda. It was made up history. It was explaining what was happening in the country the way the government wanted us to learn. There was no internet then. There was no way to research your own information. There was no going and having discussion, because you were not allowed to, you know, congregate. You were not allowed to, you have no access to foreigner information. You have two TV channels and both were run by government.
Yeah.
You didn't know what you didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, today we have internet, you can go on and you can research whatever you want. If it's fact or not, that needs some digger dipping,
Right.
but it's available. We didn't. I remember when even the copy machines were being monitored, because people were sharing information, you know, as a samizdat, like they call it, like some article that was not welcomed by the government, and people would share it secretly among themselves to educate themselves. So they were monitoring copy machines. Who may copy, how many copies, what did you copy? It was insane when you think of it, but it was part of my childhood. So then when you hear something that smells very much like that,
Yeah.
you have like sixth sense to pick it up much earlier than anybody else and
Right.
question everything. You know,
Yeah.
like I think the part of the reason why some people look at the religion the way they do is also something that they heard, something that they think they
Absolutely.
know, you know, and then they form opinion based on half truths. And instead of digging deeper and trying to find for themselves, they just take someone's opinion and run with it because it sounds good to them. And it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that's their prerogative.
Yeah.
And between them and God.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, there
And
was
I'm not gonna mess with God.
sorry. Yes. There was one question I forgot to ask earlier, and I wanted to go there because when I read your bio, you mentioned that, you know, it helped you overcome some trials, but we never touched on those. And I'm sure the faith and the family and the values that you live and surround yourself with definitely help with overcoming hard times. But could you touch on any of those that may have shifted you differently, or when
Sure.
you reflect back, you know that it taught you a valuable lesson?
Yes. So one thing that comes to mind is when we have information that is upsetting to us, it's what I did was I sought, first of all, there's this disbelief, like, how could this be? And then I wanted to really understand what forgiveness means. And so I went to it was so interesting because I was picking my daughter up from dance, and there was this woman sitting there in her car, and I knew who she was, and I rolled the window down, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I'm so excited. Tomorrow I'm going to a 3-day forgiveness conference." I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And so I went with her. I mean, drop of the hat, I went with her, and it was so lovely. And so I was on this forgiveness kick for a really long time. And then really, like, fast forward into coaching. That's what I love about coaching, is because um Whenever we're looking at someone else doing something, maybe we could say we're judging them. Uh, I love to think about how God forgave us. And and forgiveness is, I'm gonna say it's tricky. I don't like to use that word so much, but if
It
I
is
could use
not
a better,
easy for people.
yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but what makes it easy is coming to terms with our own way of, like, that something that we've done that was of sinful nature that we're not proud of, that, and if no sin is greater than another, then we can all identify with being sinners. And I'm using these terms to identify with those things that we're not, um that basically aren't love, joy, loving and kind, and the way that God really intended us for all to be and live like. And so it for me, that's what made it easier for me to learn how to forgive. So that was one trial. And then compassion comes to mind. Having compassion for others, like the trials of, oh my God, I used to be so insecure. I was always thinking that people were looking at me a certain way, and I grew up in a small community, and so and we were a large family, and I always felt like we were on the spotlight because my dad was, you know, he was a physician's assistant in the town, and so
But I
he was
knew
a
you.
doctor, one of them, and so reputation was a big thing for me. And so I always had this lurking thing about, oh, I gotta, be, watch my reputation or this, that. So
Yeah, you
that
don't want
that
to embarrass anybody. Yeah.
yeah, so I carried that in, to adulthood, and realized that it really stemmed from that. But then also my morals and my values of wanting to be an upstanding citizen, and
Mhm.
so that was one of my other trials, is always, and thinking that I knew what everybody else was thinking about me, and that they just thought I was this and that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
so but getting through those trials, I really do feel like when I know that when I went through coach training, I got coached so much. I just unraveled so much. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was big eye opening for me as well. And
Mhm,
that was actually fascinating because for me, I started learning these things because of me, because I felt that I need to grow up and have, like, I was looking for expanding my mindset, and I was thinking that things don't work in my life the way I wish they did, because I was very much go 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 go, and
mhm,
dealing with consequences later. And
mhm.
it's just, so it came much later in my life to realize that there is more that maybe I'm meant to do and think and learn. And so
Mhm.
I started learning for my own personal growth. And then by accident, because I was losing my physical business and because of my medical issues and stuff, and it came to me that they happen to offer coaching certification, and I was looking, I was like, you know what, this is actually perfect solution for all I have done up to this point, because I notify you, notify what I said about you, that you bring so much experience to the table. We
Mhm,
all have our package of unique experiences that
mhm,
we can apply. And
mhm.
so I felt this is wonderful. I can speak, I can write, I can help
Oh
people
gosh.
and
Yes.
bring all these different perspectives to the table when you expand somebody's horizon to see things that they may not have been able to see, because like we say, you don't see the tree because of for the forest. When we
Yeah.
are in the middle of dealing with something, we are actually close-minded, because we are so focused on that problem that we can't see
Yeah.
solution if it was next to us.
Yeah.
And
It's so
so,
true.
and
Right.
that's what the fun that I love about it is, because then that moment when someone says, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way. Now you know that the light bulb came out, and it's not you suggested something, it's them figuring it out on their own, which is the biggest
Yes.
empowering moment. And that's what I love.
Oh, I remember one of my first coaching sessions. I was jumping for joy.
Yeah.
I could, it's so invigorating to see people come to these terms for themselves and oh my God, and then they just get so much relief and they're charged up and they're ready to move forward with this confidence and this it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it feels like a mission. It feels like the meaning of life, that you can help someone, and very much in the way you live your life. It's it's funny question to ask, but of course I don't know your husband, and you know, you people that are the close to you, dear to you. If I had the opportunity to ask, what is Susan like? What do you think they would say?
Kind of comes to mind. And then I'm also, it was funny because just this came up not too long ago, and I'm trying to remember what they said because it was my daughter and my husband that was involved in this conversation. And actually, and I remember my daughter saying something like, my mom's the most positive person I've ever met. And I thought, wow, that was amazing to hear that from her. How
That's
sweet.
nice.
But
Yeah.
I'm also a take charge kind of gal and no fuss, you know. And so I can be a little bit of a stickler. But I recognize I'm a stickler type, you know. And that command and control, you know, it's like, oh, okay, let's just like calm all this down, because I used to run 100 miles an hour, you know. I think you were
Yeah,
mentioning.
that's very similar with me. And I think that's the one of the biggest benefits that I got from coaching, from learning and studying coaching, that the power of self-reflection. When you are no longer running and putting out fires, but you are consciously aware of what you do, what you think, what you say, and being able to reflect on it and correct the ship. Of course.
I love that you say that. That is so key and to be repeated, because uh when I'm running 100 miles an hour, I am splitting here and there and everywhere. And one of the biggest things that helped me was to just hone it in. And like you said, learn how to be consciously aware. That takes time as an
Oh yes.
adult.
Oh yes.
And if I was going to tell any of our listeners here today, you know, give yourself grace and just know that your desire to be different is happening even as you are here with us today.
Yeah. And it's there for a reason, and it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna grow even louder if you don't do anything about it. Because I believe once you find this in you, that there is something more to life than just, you know, running around and doing everything and being there for everybody and going crazy. One of my dear friends very eloquently says it, like, you cannot pour from empty cup.
Yeah.
Once you realize that you really are not good for anything unless you take care of yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes work and a lot of rewiring in that brain, because we were, especially women, we believe that we are here to serve and we need to be there for everybody else. Learning how to say no to things and learning how to prioritize your health and your well-being, and take some little time for yourself even when it seems impossible. Years back, I wrote a blog about how I come with the best ideas in the shower. And
Oh, me too. And I'm like,
it's,
okay, Lord, I'm gonna put a go
yeah,
ahead.
because it's the simple, when you think of it, that's the one place where you are being quieted down
Yeah.
almost physically. Like, you
Yeah.
can be on the phone, you can be exploring things, we are attacked constantly by people talking to us, music playing, but the scrolling on, social media, whatever it is, you have hardly time to stop and think.
Yeah.
When you are in shower, you have to.
Yeah. Actually, so I'm going to give a tip right now. So you can actually start your phone, use your phone and set the timer for 2 hours. And then every 2 hours, you can just check in with yourself and make sure that you're calm, like as if you were in prayer. There's techniques also that you can, even just rubbing your fingers together and closing your eyes, it brings you into that place of just your body and just being aware of your feet on the ground and your seat in the chair, and just really getting clear with your whole vessel, right? And there's just this calmness that comes over you. But anyway, oh my gosh, if
To bring
anybody's
you to the now, that's a big one, because we
yeah.
either live in the past, constantly recalling stuff that happened to us, or what we should have said, and what this person told you, or whatever it is, or we are worrying about stuff that didn't even happen yet. So
And we
we are
can
either in
learn how to
the past
control
or
that.
future. And what you said, that brings your awareness back to, okay, this is the only moment that you can actually influence.
Right now. And that's so beautiful, because then you can work on the things that you want to be working on. And then when you're done with that, then you can say, like, I have some plants right now that I want to put into my planter, and so I'm going to go work on that, and then I can enjoy doing that, and then I'm going to go, do something else. So if that helps anybody here today, oh my gosh, I know. And in fact, I was going to do a post today because I almost was late getting to my hosting an event today, because I was trapped in my thoughts. I was putting on my makeup and I was in my thoughts. I was thinking about the different posts and stuff that I wanted to do today, and I was like, oh my God, I'm making a post about feeling trapped in your thoughts because I was going to be late.
I think that's most of people problem today. Like, it's just we have so much going on that it's really hard to. There's actually somebody I know that his father was a brilliant strategist. He was running a huge business, billions of dollars, and the strategy was, he was one of the best in the world. And his son, who was equally smart and very brilliant businessman, was asking him question when they were sitting at the family table. So, Dad, I'm entering this big world, and you are this brilliant, businessman. So what is your advice for me to start on my journey? And it's just something that always stays with me, because I think none of us do enough of that. He turned to him and said, think. And when you think of it, we really hardly ever think. We just go with things that need to be done. To sit down and be quiet and really plan and really think through things that we want or don't want, and listen to our heart, and listen to God and whatever works for you. It's so important, and we hardly do that. That's why I mentioned that, some people are so afraid to be alone with their thoughts that they bring cell phone to the bathroom. I mean, it's just, God forbid you have 5 minutes of quiet time when you can reflect.
Yeah, I know. My heart goes out to these people that are experiencing that, because that's a real thing.
It is, yeah. So, just to part this beautiful conversation, if there's somebody who may be actively searching for a coach and considering, and maybe our very freely flowing conversation resonated with them, what would be the best way to approach you, to start with? I'll definitely post all the links to Susan, website and everything in our show notes. But what would be maybe the good way to start with, to start working on whatever issue they may have for themselves?
Be curious. and then finish the sentence, I want, and you have to start with I want. So you're asking me to leave them with a tip. Okay, I would start with that. I want.
Yeah, because most of us don't even know what we want.
And if you start with I want, it gives a lot of clarity to, I want to start my own business. I want to feel like I want to stop thinking so much about the past and be in the now. And so, yeah.
Do you then go deeper and ask why?
I avoid questions like why, and I use a lot of what's.
Mhm.
And what's help people come to conclusions for themselves that are so beautiful. It's the true essence of themselves.
I think many, many, many times, or almost every time, the problem people think they have that they are coming with to the coach turns out to be something different when you really dig a little deeper and you start realizing that that's not the real problem. The real problem is somewhere else that caused that issue. And
Yeah, and it's people get relief like in a first session.
yeah,
It's amazing. And when I say relief, it's just they're like they own it, they're like, oh yeah. And sometimes, like it's not easy to have to own up, like
yeah,
I was good at pointing the finger. Well, if my husband would just, and it's like, well, what do you want to do about it,
yeah.
And then that's where those transformative conversations come into play. And how I learned how to help people have those conversations is that, I could go then and talk to my husband so much more differently than I ever did before, because I didn't ever feel like I understood where he was coming from. It was always about like, well, this is what's going on with me. And then the other side of that is, how is that affecting you when I need something, want something that you don't even know how to go about
Express,
providing?
yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
it goes back to compassion too, when you
That's
are
it.
really like when you, I don't want to say train, but when it's in your nature to put yourself in other people's shoes, you start seeing things from different perspective, not just from your own. And I think that's where the conversation starts when you some people are afraid to reach out to coach because they are afraid to admit to themselves
Hmm.
what they are doing or not doing
Hmm.
for the problem
But
that they may be
but
dealing with.
what's so cool is that's what frees them. And
Yeah.
it's so and the beautiful part of it is if you get down to humanity in the coaching. I love to be coached because I love how it unravels me from anything and everything.
Yeah.
And you're lighter in your body, you feel light as a feather because there's this freedom
Well, also you were
freedom in
carrying
Christ.
all these worries on your shoulders,
And it's, yeah.
and you just need, sort out. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's so lovely. So I encourage everyone to, find somebody that you feel like, you can be vulnerable with and trust them. That's why sometimes as a coach, I think, oh, do I really need to reveal so much about my history to help people feel comfortable with me? And I'm not going to. I trust that God will send those to me that he believes I can help. And I,
That you
it takes
resonate
time.
with too as
Because
well.
like when
Yeah.
you hire a therapist, you just call them up and you go to them, right? Your friend might refer you. It's the same with the coach.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I, God, I think, not I think, I mean, I am thinking, but God gives all of us different gifts, and mine is the gift of encouragement. And someone recently said exhortation. And so, yeah, gosh, however I can help, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. This is beautiful conversation. Thank you so much. I have had many coaches on my podcast, and everyone brings their work from a little different angle, and the personality and the style and everything. And it is actually like, don't ever question if you need coaching. Nobody needs it, but if you want to excel in life, you may want that support that brings that extra to, you know, to not be satisfied with average, to thrive, to be better, to strive to be, you know, maybe achiever in business, or maybe better mom, or maybe better, have a better relationship. It's, we eventually get to point when we want to make sure that we are living our purpose. And I think that that's the deepest regret some people have at the end of their life, when they think of things that they didn't have the courage to do,
I
or
know.
didn't even
Yeah.
try. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's, I think it's important, and especially when you lose someone you love, and
Oh,
you relearn the value of time we all have here. It's not dress rehearsal. It's real
no.
life,
Oh,
and
my
we,
heart
none of
for
us know.
you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think that what's, you know, we can both relate to, that that constant strive to do the best we can with the
Mhm.
time we have. And
Yes.
I have regretted few things that I didn't pursue in my life so
Mhm.
far.
Mhm.
And of course you have stories about why, and what, you know, what happened, and blah blah blah. But then I was like, I don't want to repeat this pattern. I want to actually, you know, finish what I started, and because I know that I'm there for a reason. And
Mhm.
so that's how you grow. That's how you start realizing that you want more from life than just what is now, maybe. The average is never satisfying. The vanilla ice cream is never the best solution on the market.
That's right. Oh, it's such a pleasure to be with you.
It was really a pleasure, and I certainly hope that some people uh, find it as interesting as I did. And I really loved you from the first moment we met. It's just there are certain people that you click with right away,
I
and
agree.
it
Yes.
just felt right. And I'm so glad that I could kind of introduce you to different people and share
Mhm.
your wisdoms with others. And
Mhm.
I just hope that if Susan resonated with you, you will reach out without hesitation and see what it may look like if you were to work with her. And I'm sure she has things in her, how do you sell it, in the pocket, that are a different, you know, level. There was
Yeah.
also something you mentioned. Hold on, I don't want to forget that.
Okay.
Uh, the resolve what bothers you.
Resolve What Bothers You is an event, an ongoing event.
Okay.
Um, and it's a 5-step process to resolving what bothers you.
Mhm.
And it gets you down to the point of making some confident decisions about how to move forward with these things that are driving you nuts. So you can purchase that on my website,
Mhm.
or you can attend those events. You can email me, Susan at animatelifecoaching.com, and I will let you know when the next event is, because it is a Zoom link, my personal Zoom link.
So you do it online or in person?
I also offer it on through Alignable, the platform for small business owners that you and I met on, Vera. So
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So there's your first step. If you want to test what it feels like being coached by Susan.
Uh, and so I don't necessarily coach in that workshop. You're actually going through a process with me, and everybody's working independently. But if anybody wants to have a conversation with me, that's a get acquainted appointment on my website. And let's just have a conversation and let me know what's going on with you. And let's get a feel for each other, and see if we're a good fit.
Well, you created it and you are guiding them through the process. So I would disagree there. I think you are coaching, even though it's not direct coaching.
And I do at the end, if we have time, I will take someone's resolve, and we'll talk about it. And what's beautiful is that they at the end, they actually we brainstorm some ideas, because a lot of times people will go to that resolve doing it the way that they've always done it. And with as a coach, there's there's a better way. So,
Yeah.
but you do get to the resolve, which is so lovely. And then those action steps is where I really like to help with that refinement. And so I always offer a coaching session after that. And it's so beautiful because people really then they get to the really the heart of coaching with me to see how much of an impact it does make for them.
Don't settle for what is now. Always
Yeah.
strive to get better.
Yeah.
I realize that I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly going somewhere. It's I had a conversation with my friend who is always helping me with IT yesterday because I ran into some issue with my computer that I didn't resolve before or didn't see before. And he's this most brilliant mind that we can fix my computer over the phone. I learned a lot over the years from him because he kind of walked me through it. So now before I call him, I do check the usual things that may be causing it. And it was interesting because we were talking about something that I have never seen before. He has never seen before. And it was like, well, and he suggested that maybe in the future, I may want to consider a different program that wasn't in stars right now. And I'm like, my brain has limitations. I can't constantly absorb new things. This is insanity. Like I feel like, like there's some block that just like predisposes us with how much I can absorb at a given moment. With the technology going the way it is, it's the moment you feel like, okay, you finally mastered something or almost, and then boom, and you blink and it's somewhere else, and it never stops.
I totally can go there with you as a business owner. There's always something new to upgrade or it's consistent.
Yeah. Well,
and that's why God gave us all, we all specialize in different areas so that you can rely on him for all his expertise.
Exactly. It's a sacred. Susan, again, thank you so much. This was fabulous. I will share all the connections to Susan in the show notes. So if anybody feels compelled to reach out, please do so. And be supportive, subscribe or whatever, so I can bring more people like that to help us all to learn new things and expand our horizons and learn and become a better people, maybe. Thank you so much, Susan.
You're welcome, Vera.